Hi, I'm Marc, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views report on American politics. And today I want to talk about the unprecedented US support for the Ukraine in their defense against Russia's war of aggression. I know the USA again, but it's necessary this week. According to Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, the United States has contributed more than $35 billion in military aid to Ukraine since the start of the war. Austin said on Friday at the start of the Ukraine Contact Group meeting at the US Ramstein Air Force Base in Rhineland-Palatinate in Germany. According to Austin, the partners wanted to talk about air defense and ammunition at their fourth meeting. Ukraine urgently needs our help to protect its citizens, infrastructure, and units from the threat of Russian missiles, he said. We will support Ukraine for as long as necessary. According to Austin, the efforts of the partners for Ukraine made a big difference on the battlefield. They made it clear how miscalculated the Kremlin was. Russia started its invasion of Ukraine more than a year ago. The Ukraine Contact Group had previously met 3 times in Ramstein. Representatives of states that do not belong to NATO were also expected at the fourth meeting. At the meeting in Ramstein, US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin pledged that Western partners would continue to support Ukraine in the war against Russia. Ukraine urgently needs our help to protect its citizens. I just want to emphasize again because it is one important point. He said this, that the support will last as long as necessary. That's words I hear in Germany from my government as well, although I have a lot of criticism there. The US Secretary of Defense had invited the International Contact Group for the coordination of military aid to Ukraine to Ramstein, and that was, as I said, the 4th time since 2022. Representatives from more than 50 countries took part in the conference on the 422nd day of the Russian war of aggression, including, of course, Defense Minister Boris Pistorius here from Germany, his Ukrainian counterpart Alexei Rezhnikov, and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. In Ramstein, Stoltenberg spoke out in favor of continuing talks about handing over Western fighter jets to Ukraine. Deliveries by alliance partners must be discussed further. At a meeting in Kiev on Thursday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine needed more weapons, and these would include jets and air defense systems. So far, Ukraine has received Soviet-designed MiG-29 fighter jets from the West. However, the country's armed forces want Western-style aircraft for defensive combat against Russia. This could be an F-16 that's built in the United States, for example. And Stoltenberg made it clear that he currently considers the discussion about further arms deliveries to be much more important than plans for Ukraine to join NATO. Now it's all about Ukraine winning, he said in Ramstein, because if Ukraine doesn't assert itself as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe, then there's no point in discussing membership. And that is why it's now a matter of maintaining unity in supporting Ukraine. Stoltenberg again indirectly ruled out Ukraine joining NATO in times of war. According to the Secretary General, Zelensky will take part in the NATO summit on July 11th and 12th in Lithuania. It was initially unclear whether the president would travel or take part in consultations via video conference, as we have seen so often. The Ukrainian Defense Minister Rezhnikov announced via Twitter that he wanted to speak in Ramstein, among other things, about the current needs of the Ukrainian armed forces. We feel the support of our partners and keep striving for victory, he said. According to Austin, the efforts of the partners for Ukraine make a big difference on the battlefield and showed how miscalculated the Kremlin was. The United States has provided Ukraine with military aid worth as much as the whole European side, for example. Before the start of the meeting, the German Federal Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said that Ukraine's possible EU or NATO membership was not an issue at all in Ramstein. The consultations would focus primarily on financing the repair centers for weapons that have already been delivered to Ukraine. He said on Thursday evening again on public television. And questions such as the further strengthening of Ukraine's air defense and the delivery of combat aircraft would certainly also have been discussed. Regarding those repair hubs for systems such as the Marder infantry fighting vehicle, the Leopard battle tank, and the 2000 self-propelled howitzer, Pistorius said, it costs a lot of money, it has to be financed. In Ramstein, they would have to go around with a collection bag and clarify who will pay for it in the end. The US military wants to deliver American Abrams tanks to Germany for training Ukrainian soldiers in the coming weeks. US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said on Friday at the meeting that this will happen very soon. The Ukrainian soldiers are scheduled to begin training on the Abrams tanks in the coming weeks. That's at least what US media previously reported, citing Defense Department officials. The training should take place at the military training area in Grafenwöhr in Bavaria in Germany and last about 10 weeks, it said. According to reports, around 250 Ukrainian soldiers will initially be trained on the tanks. For training tanks that are not combat ready will first be delivered. That was said by US Chief of Staff Marc, also in Ramstein. The Abrams tanks intended for Ukraine are still being repaired, though. Deliveries have been accelerated to provide more armored equipment to Ukraine in the coming months, as Austin said. The Pentagon announced in March that it wanted to deliver the Abrams tanks to Ukraine by the fall. It has previously been said that it could take much more time until delivery. At the end of January, after much back and forth and parallel to the German commitment to supply Leopard tanks to Kiev, the US government announced that it would deliver 31 M1 Abrams main battle tanks to Ukraine. There have been conflicting accounts from the White House and the German Chancellery as to how the pledge of main battle tanks to Ukraine came about. The US President's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, said shortly before a visit by Chancellor Olaf Scholz to Washington at the end of February that Germany had made the delivery of US tanks a condition for the promise of German Leopard tanks. The federal government denied that. Probably Olaf Scholz said he can't remember anymore. That is an internal joke here in Germany at the moment because of the cum-ex scandal surrounding the Chancellor from the time when he was mayor of Hamburg, where all his answer in every inquiry committee is, I don't remember. Somebody with that a bad memory as head of government is a problem, though. But still, it is still important that Ukraine gets all the help they can get to defend their country, and because we must never forget, the aggressor is Russia. Ukraine is being attacked by Russia, and under international law, there is absolutely no doubt that they have the right to defend themselves and that others have the obligation to help them defend themselves. Because if others just stood by and watched them being invaded, that would have been one grave mistake, especially in the middle of Europe. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.